Yeah, yes, great. You can all hear me. Yes, brilliant. And see me, unfortunately, yes, probably as well. So I just want to thank you very much for coming along tonight and just finding out a bit more about us here at the relaunch of Dungannon Foodbank. So I'm Ollie Moore, and I'm the project manager here at Dungannon Foodbank. So I just want to give you a brief rundown of where we started and where we've come to, where we are now, and what our plans is going forward, are going forward. So basically, we started way back in 2004 with 8 hampers, one Christmas Eve, to a few older generations, shall we say, that were in need at Christmas time. That was the first year, was 8 hampers. From then, we've seen that the need grew. The need was there in Dungannon. Dungannon is one of the most deprived areas per head in Northern Ireland. So from there, then we decided that the food bank would be a good way to set up and support those people in our local community. Over the next 10 years, 12 years, it grew and grew till we were supporting somewhere between 12 to 15 families a week, which was quite manageable. One of the main things here is we like to provide a safe, non-judgmental, warm, welcoming place for people to come through the doors and just be themselves, be comfortable, have a conversation, talk about their life, talk about their hardships, and basically that way we can find out how best to support them. So as you all know, a couple of years ago then, COVID hit. The doors had to shut here at the storehouse, and the place was just filled with pallets of food, where we were supplying food out to the local area, local community, just helping everybody through, which was a completely stressful, horrendous time where people were closed off, closed down, and just didn't know what community was any longer. So we were here through that. As COVID then progressed and hopefully left the stage, we were able to open up again and just invite people in. But the need grew throughout COVID. Obviously, I think everybody here knows that. You know, people lost their jobs, people's mental health went seriously downhill, and people were were feeling horrible about themselves, you know. And we still continue to work with local agencies. We work with BCM, Belfast City Mission. We work with Women's Aid, First Steps Women's Centre, Sure Start, South Tyrone Empowerment Programme, which work out of the junction down there at Tesco's, all helping just to work together to make Dungannon a better place to live in, to grow up in, and grow old in. So that's really our vision, what we want to see, what we want to do here is just improve people's lives and just support them whenever they're at the worst time of need. So whenever you come through the door there, you can see it's basically more or less set up the way it is on a Thursday morning for our food bank. People will come in through the door, they'll get a nice welcome, nice smile, they come in, they can grab a cup of tea, coffee, a sandwich, a biscuit, and they're just left that they can have a conversation with somebody. You know, we have volunteers, wonderful volunteers here that give up their time each and every Thursday morning just to befriend people. You know, a lot of people that come in here, they don't see anybody from Thursday to Thursday. They're still isolated from COVID, possibly, from other situations in their life. They're still feeling very isolated, and this is a warm, safe space for them to come and open up, and somewhere for people to talk. And we just have that privilege to walk alongside them and just try and improve their life. Few bits and pieces that we do here. As I said, we work with the different agencies. We also, at least once a month, we do an art therapy class through those doors, my left, your right, behind you, where our guests can come in. Some of the things they've done some gardening, some planting. They've done some pottery. They've done crocheting. Yeah, different things just to improve their well-being, and it also helps to break down those barriers for whenever they come in here. You know, whenever they're working with their hands, it frees their mind and lets them relax a wee bit more, and just that they can then open up and share their story and share what's going on with them. So we also provide then clothing as well. All this, the clothing is all donated in from our local community, which is our community that know about us are fantastic. And this tonight is really about opening up to the wider community. Okay, so Dungannon's a big place, and poverty is a big problem. And I think we now believe, we truly believe that Dungannon, the community of Dungannon, is going to be the answer to this problem. So it is. So yeah, providing the clothing and the food and the talk and the chat. We also have a fully trained counsellor that is here every Thursday. So he can talk to people if they're not feeling great, or he can help them with certain relaxation techniques and things like that that they can walk them through here step by step. If he feels that they need more help than that, then he can refer them on for counselling. We also link up with other counsellors, and we have some funding that goes towards paying for counselling for people that may need it. There's, as you well know, mental health at the minute is a waiting game for treatment. So we're privileged that we have that bit of funding there, and that we have these connections that can just lift the lid for somebody, lift the lid on somebody's problems just to help them out. So yeah, so but pre-COVID we were serving about 12, 15 families a week. This morning, well this afternoon, whenever we closed the doors at 1 o'clock, we had 63 families through the door, which was 187 people supported this week alone. So that sort of gives you an idea of the steep increase that we've had in this last 8 years, 5 years, 5 to 8 years. It has been massive. We have a wonderful, as I said earlier, we have a wonderful, wonderful group of volunteers that help work here on the Thursday, but also work behind the scenes, bringing food from our warehouse to here, making sure that we have enough food here ready, setting up on a Wednesday, helping pack the food parcels, all these things. I can't speak highly enough of all these guys that come in and give their time freely, willingly, with a joyous heart, just to help and serve people in the community. And we serve all people in the community. There's no barrier. It's people of all faiths and none, all races and none. We are totally committed to each individual that comes through that door. Yeah, so that's basically all you need to want to hear from me. That's all I really want to say. But I'm going to introduce Ashley here. We've been very blessed that Ashley from Bernie Consultancy has come on board with us and has been looking at our figures and our stats over the years, just to put it into perspective of everything that's been going on over the last few years.
Thanks very much, Ali. So yeah, we were basically asked during the summer to come in alongside the food bank and look at the numbers and see if there's anything that we can tell from the information that we were already collecting. So if Johnny can stop taking photographs and move on to the next slide. So I work for a company called Bernie Consultancy. We work across the food sector, from meat plants on the Isle of Man to food banks in Dungannon. We've pretty much seen everything there is to see. So if we can go to the next slide, Johnny. What we did was we spent a lot of time taking all the stats that had already been accumulated from the food bank. So there were really 5 years of really good, solid stats that we could use to create a basis. So we looked at a 5-year view. So in 2018, the food bank blessed 1,300 people all year. The next year, it went up 21% to just over 1,600. And then, as Ali said, the pandemic hit, 191% up, just shy of 5,000 people. And I mean, people couldn't get out of their houses. They were queuing outside because we couldn't let them in here because of legislation, but there was still that massive need. When things sort of died off a bit in 2021, we would have expected to see more of a decline than we did, but it only went down 10%. And then this year, with the cost of living crisis, we've just seen things go up and up and up. We're predicting it to be a 39% increase, but really that increase is going to be more. When I did these statistics yesterday, that 39% was sitting at 34%. We had 187 people through the food bank today, which pushed it up 5% to 39%. That's going to look 40 or 50% higher by the end of the year if the trend continues. So serving the food bank, Ali said, we've got a great set of volunteers, which we do, and they have given so far this year 705 days between them. And I mean, you're looking at Ali, who does a lot of hours during the week. On average, we're looking at 12 volunteers here on a Thursday and 3 or 4 guys who do things during the week. I mean, for such a small group of people, that's a lot of time to put in. And that, so far this year, was to bless 5,370 people, which is 1,166 more than 2021, 683 more than 2020, and 3,760 more than 2019. We just seen the statistics. They don't surprise me anymore, and when we first started doing this, we try and update the statistics at least once a month, but really it's regularly throughout the month, and you think that you're going to see things start dropping because prices are going down and different things that we're looking at. But I mean, this week was I think it was the second busiest week of the year, and we'd expected to start seeing things start to decline. So the year-on-year figures, the green one is this year and the grey one's last year. So you can see consistently throughout the year, apart from maybe 1 month, the demand has been significantly higher, and the dip in August is because the food bank was closed for 2 weeks. So those people were still getting the same amount of food that they normally would have got, only they got, what, double 1 week, Ali? So that's that statistic, that dip isn't really a dip. So if you look at the sharp increase between August and October, we're linking that to the electric price rises, because as soon as the price rises came up, we saw a 58% increase in demand for the food bank. So far in 2022, we have given away 2,419 food parcels and other essentials. So as well as food, there's different hygiene packs and things like that that go out, which when you add it all up, it's £91,528 retail value. We get those for cheaper, but if people had to go and buy these things in the shop, that's the price they're looking at. And that's really all for me. I've put my email address up there because I have to go home and put the kids to bed. But if anybody has any questions about any of that, please don't be afraid to reach out. I'm happy to ask any questions or share the presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, great, Ashley. Thank you very much. So all that just shows us the stark reality that people are facing in Dungannon and the Dungannon area at the moment. Yeah, it's heartbreaking at times when you hear the stories of people coming through those doors and what they're facing on a daily battle. Yeah, so it's just hard to put into words how you feel about that, But again, we're so happy that we're here to help. But as I said, now it's time to reach out into the community and see if others can come on board. We started out a small church that started to do a food bank to help those in need, and it has grew exponentially on us. So this summer, when we became part of the Trussell Trust, I was asked to go along to a Trussell Trust roadshow, and I was just blown away by everything that they do and their vision and all that they stand for. So we'll have a couple of people tonight. There's Johnny and Helen here from the Trussell Trust, and they're just going to come up and give us a bit of background on what they do. So, go ahead, Johnny. Thanks.
Thank you, Ali. Good evening, everybody. It's really great to be here. My name is Johnny Curry. I'm Northern Ireland Network Lead for the Trussell Trust. I'm here with my colleague Helen, who's Area Manager for Dungannon Foodbank as well. So good to have Helen with us. We're really delighted that Dungannon has joined the Trussell Trust Network. I love that phrase you used, Ali, about Dungannon as a place to live in, grow up and grow old. Love that. And go on to the next slide, please. I thought it would be helpful just to say a wee bit about who and what the Trussell Trust is, where we came from, and why we're doing what we do now. We're an anti-poverty charity that supports a network of food banks, but it was started with a legacy created by this woman, and her name's Betty Trussell. And Betty Trussell was the mother of Carol Henderson. Carol Henderson and her husband Paddy are from Salisbury. And their work originated with a legacy after Betty Trussell died that started working with railway children in Bulgaria back in 1997. Betty and Carol are from Salisbury. And when they came back to Salisbury from Bulgaria, they were approached by a young family who were struggling to afford food. So the very first Trussell Trust Food Bank was started at the bottom of Paddy and Carol Henderson's garden in Salisbury. And Salisbury is one of those places that gives the impression of being a fairly well-to-do place. You wouldn't think there was necessarily poverty there, but there was under the surface. And that's where the first Trussell Trust Food Bank originated. If you, on the next slide, it says how many food bank centres there are in our network. So there are over 1,200 food bank centres in our network across the UK. And that's about 2/3 of all food banks in the UK overall. There are many independent food banks as well. Next slide, please. Our vision. So we started in 1997. Our first Trussell Trust Food Bank in Northern Ireland was in Newton Ards in 2011 in Thriving Life Church. And in 2020, we launched a brand new strategic vision. And that vision was for a UK without the need for food banks. Very much based on the belief that no one should have to rely on emergency food. While we're glad that food banks are here, and our role is to support food banks to be effective in meeting need, we can't have a UK and a Northern Ireland and a Dungannon where it's the normal. So we wanted to try and reorientate our work around what does it look like for a UK where everyone can afford the essentials for themselves. And our vision is based around those three strands. Sorry, back to the last one there. Changing communities, which is really around the solutions to end the need for food banks lie in local communities with local people and local organisations that know what's needed to end the need for food banks. Changing minds is around how can we create a movement that understands what it means to use a food bank, understands why people use a food bank, and can try and challenge the narrative out there around why food banks exist and why we shouldn't have them as our long-term future. They're not the solution to poverty long-term. And change in policy is around what are the things that need to change at government level in Westminster, and in our case at Stormont when it's functioning, around what are the drivers so that everybody can afford the essentials for themselves. Our next slide shows you where we're based. So these are not all of the food banks within Northern Ireland. These are food banks within the Trussell Trust network. We support 22 food banks in each of these locations. Out of that 22, 20 of those are managed by churches or faith-based organisations. And those food banks manage a further 23 distribution centres close by. So it's actually 45 food bank centres within our network overall. So we've got quite a broad geographical spread there. More concentrated in the urban areas east of the Bann, and then it thins out as we move west. So Dungannon are the newest addition to our network. Ours were the first. Next slide just gives a bit of context, which Ashley hinted at earlier in that amazing presentation on the data that you're seeing around what is driving the need for food banks. And even with the cost of living crisis, these three main reasons tend to still be the main reasons for driving need to food banks. The first one is problem with the benefit system. So many people referred to food banks have some sort of problem with the social security system. Either that's through overpayments, some sort of mistake, or else sanctions. And our most recent statistics in the summertime there indicated that across our network, across the whole UK, just under half of people referred actually owe money to the government in some shape or form. Ill health and challenging life experiences, so challenges around mental or physical ill health, eviction, divorce, or losing a job often push many people into poverty. It makes it more difficult to earn money or engage with the welfare system. And those sudden things that can just hit you, like an unexpected bill as well, can just completely wipe you out, so you have to rely on emergency food. And the last one is lack of other support. So most people who come to food banks in our network either didn't have or had exhausted formal and informal support and had nowhere else to turn. We're seeing some more interesting, more recent trends driven by the cost of living, which I'll come back to shortly. But I wanted to say a wee bit about the context that we're in now. Next slide. So just on the first 6 months of this year, we released some figures just a few weeks ago, just around what we're seeing as the cost of living is really starting to peak. So this is cost of living stuff that you're probably familiar with, but it just shows you overall inflation reached 8.8% in September. The prices for food and non-alcoholic beverages went up by 14.6%. Transport costs up 11%. 9% for housing, water, electricity and other fuels. 8% for clothing and footwear. And then the last one there, according to data from the Office for National Statistics, the overall price of budget food items, so not premium brand stuff, soared by 17% in the year to the end of September. So those things are starting to hit everyone, but especially people that run lower incomes. Our next slide just shows you how people claiming universal credit faced financial hardship over the summer. 40% of people in receipt of universal credit report that they skipped meals. 21% weren't able to cook hot food because they couldn't afford to use the oven. 36% have been unable to pay for essential dental treatment for themselves or a member of their household, and 18% have been able to afford medical prescriptions. Over half are either facing a constant struggle to keep up with their bills or are already facing significant financial problems and are behind with multiple bills. And then 8% of people claiming universal credit in August had used a food bank in the previous 30 days. So the cost of living crisis is affecting us all, but it's particularly affecting people that have to rely on the social security system. In terms of the first 6 months of this year, it was our busiest ever period as an organisation. We had a 33% increase UK-wide on the same period last year, and a 52% increase from pre-pandemic levels. So over 281,145 parcels in the first 6 months of this year. Next slide. Food banks across the network are having to purchase record levels of food. So with the cost of living crisis driving increases in the number of people coming to food banks, need is outstripping donations. So you can see there just the average amount of money that food banks have spent so far per month on extra supplies so far this year, and that compares to around £750 last year. So it shows you how much food banks are struggling in terms of stock levels and how they're having to top up themselves financially. In terms of need going into the winter, this shows you just how, these mirror your local stats around how need is really rising into the winter time. The slight dip that we saw in July indicates that the cost of living payment that was made to people who are in receipt of benefits had some short-term impact on need, but we're really heading on an upwards trajectory as we head into the winter months. The next slide just gives a bit of context around working households. So we're doing a UK-wide piece of research called Hunger in the UK. which we're launching next year. And that research highlights already that 1 in 5 people referred to food banks this year were in households where someone was working. So that's an increasing trend that we're seeing. We know that more working people are needing to turn to food banks, and also many food banks in our network are changing their opening hours to ensure that people who are working can access support outside of working hours. And also, often people claiming social security are also working, so it's not an either or. These next slides just give you a sense of where Northern Ireland sits in terms of the wider picture for all of our food banks where we operate. So you'll see from this that in terms of food bank increases in the first 6 months of this year compared to the first 6 months last year, Northern Ireland is much lower compared to other regions. 87% of food banks have seen increases since last year. Our increases here are 25% on the previous year, but up until the first 6 months of this year, Northern Ireland had the sharpest increases. But it's just within the first 6 months of this year that the rest of the UK is almost starting to catch up and seeing much higher increases in those regions too. So if I was to show you that those slides this time last year, we would have been at the top alongside London and Yorkshire and the Humber. What our data tells us about Northern Ireland for the first 6 months of this year is that from April to September we've given out 32,000 emergency parcels to people across Northern Ireland. Just under half of those were provided for children. As I said earlier, that's a 25% increase from last year and a 194% increase compared to 5 years ago. Almost 10,000 people in Northern Ireland were forced to turn to a food bank in the Trussell Trust network for the first time. So a lot of first-time food bank users this year, just in the first 6 months. And the other thing I would say as well is the August and September just passed were our busiest Augusts and Septembers on record as an organisation in Northern Ireland and across the UK. This next map just shows you a wee bit of the scale of need and where we sit in terms of the rest of the UK. We're the smallest part of the network, so the 22 food banks that we work with here only make up 5% of the total number of food banks in the wider Trussell Trust network. But up until last year, we saw the highest increases in terms of food bank use. And just you can see there just in terms of scale how many more food parcels are given out in the rest of the UK. And those are figures for the full financial year last year as well. The next slide just shows you, again, these mirror Dungannon's stats, but at a UK-wide level. Food bank parcel distribution really peaked really during the pandemic year when there was so much need. Stats last year were down on that, but very much on the upwards trajectory. And on the next slide, which shows the Trussell Trust food banks within Northern Ireland, it pretty much follows that, you know. Sharp increases from 2016-17, down a bit last year, but still very much on an upwards trajectory, and we expect that to continue for the rest of this year. Just a couple more slides to finish. What the stats from this year have shown is that no one should need to turn to charity for something as essential as food. And the situation that we're facing is too great for food banks to solve alone. We know it doesn't have to be this way, and that's why, just to highlight the work that we do with governments, both in Westminster and in the different regions, in terms of action that they can take. I'll not go into the details of all of those, but we work very closely with food banks in our network to make sure that that their views and the things that they're seeing are passed on to MLAs and MPs as well, so they're aware of the situation on the ground, and we try and provide solutions for them to take action. If we can just go through to the slide after that, and again. These are 4 ways that we think we can work to end the need for emergency food in Northern Ireland. It feels far away right now as we head into, as we're almost in the eye of the storm of the cost of living crisis, but we want to still, in the midst of supporting our food banks, still get it on the agenda that we can't continue this way. So whenever we were working with we were trying to influence elected representatives in the run-up to the Assembly elections in May around 4 ways to end the need for emergency food. This is what food banks were telling us. They would love to be supported by government to deliver on the commitment that our food banks have made to work towards ending the need for their services. We want to ensure that everyone can buy the food and the essentials that they need, so that people have enough money in their pockets to afford the basics for themselves. It's really important that local services are supported to ensure that people get the right support at the right time. So you're able to maximize your income, get the employment support that you need, get the mental health support that you need, so that you don't have to come to a food bank, or you get that support at a food bank, like the range of services that are run from here. So you're less likely to have to come back and rely on emergency food again. And the last way that we've identified here is to involve people with direct experience of poverty in shaping the services they need and use. So we're really pleased to be on the journey with Dungannon Food Bank. We're really glad that you've joined the network. You've fitted right in, and hopefully you've felt part of the community of other food banks that we have there. And we're really delighted that you're relaunching with us as well. And we look forward to supporting you through the winter, but also in the years ahead. So thanks for having us along. And Ali, I'm going to hand over back to you. Oh, sorry. Also happy to answer any questions you have as well at the end about Trussell Trust.
Yeah, so thanks, Johnny. So that's really what sealed it for me, was their vision to end the need for food banks right across the UK. And just said that's something that we need to get on board with, but we can't do it on our own. So that's the point of tonight, was to relaunch. We used to be known as Reach Food Bank. We're now Dungannon Food Bank, to incorporate the whole community. And we just want you to get involved in any way you can. It can be volunteering on a Thursday, giving up a few hours on a Thursday, to come in, talk to people, make them a cup of tea, ask them how they're doing. There's also behind the scenes work, bringing the stuff from the warehouse to here. The stuff that goes to the warehouse, stuff that's donated, that goes to the warehouse has to be sorted and has to be dated and has to be put onto the new shelving that's coming soon. And there's the movement of it from there to here. There's collections at Tesco and Dungannon and Cookstown that we can get involved in. We do deliveries for people with mobility issues. At the moment, that is the only reason that we will deliver a food parcel, if somebody has a genuine need for it. Again, that's done by 2 people, so they're basically doing it week about, and it's a lot. And I know from way back, whenever I started volunteering here at the food bank, there was 11 of us serving 12 families, 15 families a week. Till now, there is 11 of us serving 63 families a week. So if you can get involved in any way, please do get in touch with me. My email address is info@dungannon.foodbank.org.uk, and I'm very easily found. I'm very noticeable. I'm a big guy with a beard. Come up to me anytime, speak to me, and we can definitely arrange something. If you're part of a community group and you just wanted to do a food drive, awesome, brilliant. Let's get that sorted. Yeah, because at the moment here at church, we're just launching our Outward Focus Christmas. Is our fundraising that fuels the food bank all year round. So last year we raised 32,500, and that's been buying food and essential items for our guests that come through those doors all this year. This Christmas we're hoping to hit a target of 40,000. That's probably not going to be enough to see us through next year, but God's always been good to us, and He'll provide whatever's needed beyond that, and I truly believe that. So if there's any way, thank you for coming. If there's any way that you can get involved in it, would like to get involved in it, yeah, just get in touch with me, and we'll definitely sort something out. Yeah. Does anybody have any questions for Johnny, or do you want to just meet him after and chat over tea or coffee? Do you want to do it after just? Is that alright? Yeah? Johnny, I think there's one more wee video there. Just. We'll just finish with this, guys. Thank you very much for coming. Delighted to see so many here. I was sort of worried at the start of the week that I was going to be the only person here. I was saying that I set up all the chairs for church on Sunday because if nobody turns up, at least it's ready for Sunday morning. So, yeah, we'll put on the video, and thanks again for coming.
Pasta and rice, and never enough sponge puddings, and too many beans, and would you like an Easter egg? I commission. I commission you back to the banqueting table of pasta and rice, and never enough sponge puddings, and too many beans, and would you like an Easter egg with that? I commission you back to heartache and worry, and fervent justice, and the silent sunrise, as you lie awake wondering what another day will bring. I commission you to compassion and mercy, and living out the messy reality of love your neighbour as yourself, the neighbour who is you and me and us, and who reminds us that until we're all complete, none of us are really whole. I commission you to dreaming and gleaning and reasoning and pleading, and dinner conversations where people are left reeling because she didn't just need to pull her socks up or cook better or budget more. That her life in all its fullness is set back by a deduction, an illness, a computer says no, a silent cancer of a sorry love, I wanted someone older or younger or smarter or quicker, anyone but you. I commission you back to daring to believe the world could be different, to keeping a dream when others are withering, to innovating, creating, taking a risk, leaping without a safety net. I commission you back to the frontline battle of, yes, but it's not proper poverty, is it really? To, if they could only make better choices, get better jobs, be more like me. I commission you back to hard-won skeptics, to change makers and goal setters and future leaders, to people who are helpless, hopeless, angry and generous, to those who use whatever they have to buy tins which you treasure more than gold. I commission you to dating and sorting, and we've got some fresh veg at last, and should we still be wearing a mask? I commission you to planning and risk assessing and data collecting and fundraising, and can I tell you what I do? You are the ones we waited for. You are the triers and the prayers and the may I sayers and the drifters and resistors and heavy lifters, but never more than 15 kilograms. You are light living amongst us. You are brave and bold and sad and joyful and visionaries and leaders. And I don't know why it's me, but it is hers. I commission you back out where the world is real. The toil is great, and your vision is true. I commission you to peace, to your team, to tearing to dream. I commission you to rise once again, tired and weary though you are. And most of all, I commission you to hope, for together we stand, together we stay, and together we go.
Choosing cellular